The history of America also has its dark aspects, especially the punishments that were employed throughout its early years. From the colonial era to the early days of the nation, various forms of cruel and unusual punishments were inflicted on the individuals convicted of crimes. In this video, we'll explore some of the most brutal punishments that shaped America's early history. Public executions. One of the most well-known and brutal forms of punishment in early America was public execution. It could be anything from hangings to public burnings at the stake. These were common ways used by the administrator to impose the death penalty. Public executions were a form of punishment that was done in public to ensure everyone sees the spectacle as a warning of the fate that awaits a person if they commit a crime. Branding. Branding was another brutal punishment used in early America. This punishment involved using a red-hot iron to mark a visible symbol, somewhat like a tattoo, like a nasty scar, onto the skin of the convicted person. The purpose of branding was to permanently mark the individual as a criminal and to serve as an indication of their crimes for future offenses. Most commonly branded symbols included the letter T for thief, M for murderer, or R for rogue. Branding was often reserved for repeat offenders, and the mark served as a human register to show his criminal past. Whipping. Whipping was a common form of punishment not only in America but in a lot of places in the past. The convicted person would be publicly lashed with a whip or a rod, hurting them both emotionally and physically. Small-town people, where everyone knew everything, made it shameful for the criminal to even come out of the house, and also this meant they would have no possibility of earning a living. Whippings were often witnessed by large crowds. The number of lashes administered varied depending on the severity of the crime. Pillory and stocks. The pillory and stocks were devices used to restrain the head and hands or feet of the accused person. The pillory was a wooden framework designed with holes for the head and hands, while the stocks restrained the lower limbs or feet to keep them in place. Offenders kept in these devices were exposed to the public as the masses humiliated them with verbal and physical abuse. The idea of the pillory and stocks was to publicly shame and humiliate the convict and make them a target for public scorn and derision. This made it hard for them to live in society. Mutilation. While it was common in almost all of the ancient times, mutilation was employed much later as a punishment in early America. This form of punishment involved physically altering the body of the convicted person as a permanent proof of the person being an offender. Common forms of mutilation included ear cropping, where a portion of the ear was cut off, and tongue slitting, where the tongue was split. These practices aimed to permanently mark and shame the individual, making it clear to others that they were guilty of a crime. While these didn't make them an outcast, some mutilations were much more severe, like severing the offender's limbs, making them unable to do any work. While these punishments look like something straight out of a gore movie and brutal by today's standards, it's essential to understand that these were the times when nations were still at a state of infancy when it came to law and justice. Early American society was very different from the society we know today. There was a strong emphasis on maintaining social order and strict adherence to societal norms. Punishments were designed to be harsh and severe, reflecting the prevailing strict attitudes and beliefs of the time. But things did change. Over time, as society progressed and evolved, there was a growing recognition of the need for more humane and rehabilitative approaches to justice. Reforms in the legal system led to the abolition of many of these brutal punishments, with a shift towards incarceration as the primary form of punishment. The emphasis also began to shift towards rehabilitation and reintegration into society. It's important to acknowledge and take the past and learn from the brutal punishments. They reflect a dark aspect of American history. Today, the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution prohibits cruel and unusual punishments, highlighting the evolution of America's society values and principles regarding punishment and human rights. In conclusion, the early history of America was marked by brutal punishments aimed at maintaining control and deterring criminal behavior. Public executions, branding, whipping, the pillory and stocks, and mutilation were all forms of punishment employed during this time. These punishments inflicted physical pain, humiliation, and long-lasting psychological effects on the convicted individuals. However, as society progressed, there was a shift towards more humane and rehabilitative approaches to justice. While we should acknowledge the brutality of the past, it's also important to recognize the strides made in creating a more just and compassionate legal system. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe for more. Have a good day.